Yeah.
Good evening. I would like to call the July 1st, 2024 meeting of the Town of Cicero Zoning Board of Appeals to order. Please call the roll.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here. Please take note of the fire exits located in the front and the rear of this room. At this time, please silence all cell phones and pagers. Please note that tonight's meeting is being streamed live on YouTube and is also being recorded. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Has everyone read the minutes of the June 3rd, 2024 meeting? Okay. Are there any corrections? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
When you're ready, please call the,
Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion?
Yes to the motion.
yes to the motion. The Cicero Town Board acknowledges the importance of full public participation at all public meetings, and therefore we urge all who wish to address those in attendance to please come to the microphone located in the front of the room. At this time, I will make a motion that all actions taken tonight are type 2 actions and have a negative impact that is no impact on the environment unless otherwise indicated. Do I have a second?
Second.
When you're ready, please call the roll.
Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion?
Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion. We have proof that all items on tonight's agenda have been advertised as directed by law. I will briefly review the process for tonight's meeting for the benefit of those present that have never been before the Zoning Board of Appeals. Each applicant will have an opportunity to describe their project. The board will then ask questions about the project. I will then open a public hearing where people will be able to speak for or against the proposed variance. The applicant will then be given the opportunity to respond to public input and provide additional information. Board members will be allowed to ask follow-on questions. The board will then openly discuss amongst ourselves the 5 factors that contribute to the final decision. Please note that this board does not have a pre-agenda meeting, so there is no prior discussion of cases outside of this meeting. And then finally, a motion will be made either approving or denying the requested variance, seconded and voted upon. Our first and only case tonight is an application for a property on 8874 Lombardi Drive. The owner is Gregory Ryder. Mr. Ryder, if you wouldn't mind coming up and addressing the board. Good evening. If you could describe your project to us, please.
Yes, good evening. So just to introduce myself, I'm Greg Ryder. I'm a lifelong resident of Cicero, New York. Been here for 37 years. My wife ran to the bathroom there with one there, but she's been here a few less years than that. But again, both lifelong residents here, and we're here tonight. First, thank you for taking the time on a nice Monday evening to come and listen to us here. But really the reason is regarding an area variance for a proposed shed that we're looking to install. As shown up on the picture there, when we submitted the application for the shed installation, we didn't realize that there was an additional 10-foot offset required from our what was labeled as the build line on our surveys there. So when we had designed the shed, we were aware of the 10-foot offset requirement specified. So we had designed that into the neighboring property there. But we're not aware of such the additional 10-foot that we found out when the application was submitted. The reason to submit a variance to that or request for variance there was just if we were to shift another 6 feet in that back corner of the property there, as you see, we're kind of fit a lot into a small area there. We're very pleased with what we've, put in over the last couple of years here, but unfortunately would kind of make this space unfunctional to what we were looking to do. And now with a family of 3 here, the space demands have grown quickly for us. So that's where we kind of grew in size and what we were looking to put in. But again, hoping that we could seek some variance to be able to put that. So it's just a little bit more tucked away that I do think would ultimately benefit the neighboring properties without creating an adverse impact to both the town and the ability to still maintain the drainage easement and, any physical requirements within there, but also not creating any more visual impacts to the rear property line. So with that, as you see in my project description, quick and concise is not my forte, so maybe I'll pause there and see if there's any questions.
Can you restate your comments around I'm not tracking the additional 10 feet. You said something about additional 10 feet from your
Yeah,
building
so
line. I'm not sure I'm following.
redesigned, so our fence line on the rear property is located on what our original surveys was called the build line. And that's located, which was located there because it creates a 20-foot offset from the rear property line.
Which is your drainage
Which
easement.
is the drainage easement,
Okay.
exactly there. So when we had done our design, we thought the property line, the drainage easement, using the build line, we thought the 20-foot got us off the rear property line that we didn't recognize it would require another 10 feet off of that.
Got it.
easement
So
within
the
existing
setback
fence.
is, so now you know the setback is 30 feet from your rear
Correct.
property line.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
got it.
Simple question. Is the shed gonna have electricity or water?
No, because we have, electricity was previously run out there when we did the pool installation.
Okay.
So we could decide down the road to maybe do more to it, but financially and more just a spot to fit it right now. We didn't have any plans
Right.
for doing any sort of electrical finishes at this time.
Okay, so it's truly a shed, not a pool house.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it would have been nice. She would have appreciated the other part, but the cost got a little out of hand there with the thoughts.
If you turn the shed about 30 degrees clockwise, you can make it, right?
Yeah, so if you were, again, so it's 24 feet, so if it was another 6-foot shift of that rear corner, it would meet those requirements, but the challenge is, as you kind of see in the drawing there, that 6 feet over ends up putting it where you got it creates about 10 foot on each side of the shed there that we're left with only about 20 feet today, so if we were to do that, really kind of chops up the yard where the little bit of functional area we have on the house side there would really be split to now just 10 feet there by keeping that 30-degree shift there.
So I just want to elaborate on what Mr. Rabia said, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you were talking about was potentially taking the building itself and shifting it so it's more parallel
Yep.
to the fence. And that way you could probably strike a balance and get, if not the 6 feet, a little bit more. Where Mr. Rabia is coming from is that we are charged with granting the minimum variance required to build something. So there really has to be an overriding reason why we're violating that 30-foot rear yard that's required. Mark, is that?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you for the additional clarification. Yeah. We're just trying to figure out ways to
Yeah, no, I
reduce the
understand
amount of
appreciate
variance that
that
we,
questioning and certainly looked at that. And I do think if we were challenged with that, it would probably cause us to go back and, maybe cut down and probably not put in, as significant there. Just because that would really take away that functionality space there.
but I appreciate your comment, but I guess I don't see what it would take away. I mean, if you rotate that, again, take the whole thing, fix the upper left corner, just effectively rotate it 30 degrees and
Right, not slide it all out, but
turn it a little
Oh,
bit.
so you're
Turn it.
saying, because the upper left corner there, sorry, maybe I'm getting it better where, because they are the pool utilities up there was what my wife was pointing out, but
Correct.
if that were to turn, that would then we would end up inside the 10 feet there. Or
No, no, no. I'm saying
Oh, yeah,
turn
that's-
clockwise.
Yeah,
that-
so-
Yeah, pinning,
Make-
you're saying pinning the upper corner and rotating.
No, pinning this corner.
Either
And
one. I was thinking
rotating
pin the
this
upper
towards
left
the
corner,
upper
Chuck, and
left.
rotate
Upper
it.
left and try and rotate down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I had interpreted it
Yeah.
as.
Mr. Rabia, sorry, that was very loud. If you look at the
Got our
photos,
attention, though.
if you look at the photos, the landscaping is also on the right side. And I think that's.
I'm not worried about the landscaping. I mean, that's a flower bed. I mean. But, so that's what I'm trying to get at. I guess I don't see by rotating it 30 degrees counterclockwise, or let's call it down in this picture, I don't see how it's gonna affect the pool filter and heater.
No, that's what
Okay.
my wife thought you were gonna be pushing the upper corner. So if you kept the upper left corner where it is and shifted,
Yeah.
it would be another 6 feet, you would bring it down there.
Yeah.
The way we saw it, what it would leave when you stake that out in the yard, it basically puts it right in the middle of any functional spaces where the challenge was that we were trying to maintain, as well as unfortunately it creates more of a negative impact to the neighboring property when you do shift it down there, whereas, I quoted tucked away, like to there, it's less of an impact to them.
What's the concern with the neighboring property, I guess?
No, it was just, talking about where I was requesting a variance was about, one of the questions is creating more negative,
Yeah.
Adverse impacts, right? Thought this actually helps from creating a more adverse impact if I were to, submit without a variance there.
I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, I see potential paths here to at least minimize the variance, right? I'm not, again, I guess we could be flexible a little bit, but
I think you and I came up with two different ones that,
and just reiterate yours. So I'm on, you're saying spin which way or move which way?
so what I was saying is if you took this corner,
Yeah.
held that at 10 feet, rotated that 10 feet, it'd probably get you part of the way there. And then you just,
But-
you could minimize the slide down.
Wouldn't
to get-
wouldn't that bang into the pool equipment or no? Or maybe I'm not following your laser.
I have a feeling that to get the full 6 feet, you'd be missing the
Okay.
pool equipment altogether.
Okay.
So Chuck, you're just saying basically you want to create the back wall of the shed, you want it to be parallel to the
No,
property.
he's
Correct,
doing,
yeah.
So that would be without
Almost.
any variance then, right?
And that would be without any variance.
Yeah, and that, unfortunately, we probably wouldn't be able to
Like
move forward,
this.
which I respect, the board members.
Well, maybe elaborate a little bit more on that is why you wouldn't be able to move
It's the
forward.
fun-
It's gotta get
we're dealing with about 18 feet of grass there, so, you take away 6 feet of that, we probably would struggle to be able to maintain,
but
use.
that's, I know you said this wasn't self-created, but that's absolutely a self-created problem, right? Based on the amount of patio work you have, you limited the amount of grass you had, right? When you put the concrete work in, right?
Yeah.
No, I got it.
I'm trying to figure out something for you here.
I appreciate that.
What if it goes here?
Right. We're all sketching little layouts here on the plan, so I think we're all doing the same variant
Yeah.
of what I mentioned.
Trust me, I
Everybody's
understand.
fixing the upper left corner and
Engineer by
trying to.
trade, I've been-
Okay. Thought that verbiage sounded familiar. And you're right up.
What are you monkeying around with there, Chuck?
I'm trying to just sketch a 30-foot offset from the rear property line, roughly parallel to it to see kind of where things would line up.
So kind of what I did. He'd lose maybe I don't know. 3 feet of his concrete work, right? 4 feet of his concrete. work.
Yeah. There'd be a little bit less than 6 feet of, loss of the
Grass
interior
space.
yard, though. In my highly accurate sketch that I just,
I mean, is there some sort of in-between number where we try to get to,
I think we can definitely talk about that.
yeah, I mean, I think if we can get to something 27 or something like that, right? Try to figure out how to.
Yeah.
Just stay away from the rear property line as much as we can.
I mean, if you slide it all the way up here. Right?
Yeah.
You have to lose more of the concrete.
So what she's playing around with now is moving the building basically north, you know.
Yeah,
You-
no.
you lo- you lose a little bit of your, you
But
lose,
then we get into some grades, because there is, I don't know if you can see from the pictures there, and it's, obviously that comes a pretty it comes with a cost to have all
To remove
the hardscape done and stuff. So I really do appreciate the board, trying to make those adjustments. I mean, for my own health, do we, just trying to better understand, those offsets, of what helped drive that, is it from the physical aspects? Is it the visuals, just, it's like being within the fence line, it just felt to us that, again, with the original survey, we did this design in 2021 when we built the original pool design there, and, we didn't have concerns, but it also wasn't part of the original application and such. So just hard now that we had went pretty far through all of this and, had our Amish folks lined up with us and stuff here, that it's been a challenge for us to understand, the 30-foot is a pretty extreme, on top of that. So and it's okay if we don't have an elaboration, but I was hoping to better understand, 10 foot further off of that inside fence line of.
Well, the 30 foot is meant to establish, a reasonable rear yard. And furthermore, the offsets that we have, the rear, the front, the side yards are meant to establish a, consistency throughout neighborhoods. And part of it is also established as just being a good neighbor, staying away from the, rear property line. So that's really the genesis of a lot of this, is to basically create a little envelope where we can build within, but still maintain some uniformity of build throughout the neighborhood.
And maybe to that point, I will call out, this one does back up to, it doesn't, to me, we're a little bit unique. It's not backing up to a neighbor's
Right.
property and such there, where we do have the drainage easement, followed by more woods. And then there is, a small farm field, but really, mostly Lakeshore Road, on that side where, again, for us, it's been, we thought we were in a good spot, and then, our builder went in, and then, we got surprised there a little bit, so appreciate everyone's time though with helping through this.
Oh, I gotta be honest with you, guys, I don't see a problem with this per se, simply because he does have a fence. There is a 24-foot drainage easement, and there is a farmer's field beyond that. Now, the way things are going, it's possible the farmer's field could be developed at some point. But clearly, the shed can be shifted.
Mhm.
But clearly, there's an expense involved. And I've seen so many structures in property, in drainage easements over the years, that the fact that this is well away from that drainage easement, I think is a positive thing. That's just my thought.
yeah, I mean, I appreciate your opinion. I'm just, we're charged with granting the minimum amount of variance, right? So
I agree.
my personal opinions aside, I'm trying to look at the duty that we have to say, is there a way to do this? And in my mind, I get all the things he's saying, but in my mind, there's absolutely a way to do this. And a fairly simple way to do it.
I would tend to agree with that. Now, Mr. Robbie, are we still talking about maybe coming to some kind of in-between point?
Well, I think the
also, or-
applicant suggested that he didn't want to compromise. Maybe I misunderstood what you said.
I'm certainly open, but
Okay.
we would have to go back and go to our hardscapers, our builder, it's got to recalculate everything. And
I mean, I'm okay, Chuck, if he wants to go back and, think about it and lay it out and do all the little diagrammatic shifts that we have done.
I mean, I've done the, so
Okay.
yeah, I guess I would be, is there a number that you're trying to hold to that?
We're trying to minimize the amount of variance requests, right? So we're trying to come up with something
Yeah,
to,
get as close to the
So
30 as.
correct.
So I would say absent any other evidence, like maybe coming back in and showing us those the prelim layouts that you did. I think I'm still stuck at 30 right now.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, let's start there and see what you come up with, right? Again, I've got a sketch here that works. I get your concern on the grass, but it works relative to the placement of the structure on the property.
You could also consider a smaller shed.
Yeah, I mean, we might be off the table at this point. It's just unfortunate. I mean, it's not it's a big financial commitment to be here tonight. So I guess to clarity, you're asking for alternate proposals. I mean, do I have an offset requirement, that you have in mind to?
I think like Chuck said, I mean, let's start with 30 and then show us all the reasons that 30 becomes a challenge, right? Again, I clearly see it here, but
But 30 is, so that's without, I mean, that would be a that would be without the board's request, right?
Got it.
You know, so
Right, then you would
got it.
not have to
Because
come.
I mean, we've worked through this and, really are here tonight, made, over $1,000 commitment to be here tonight, to get an updated survey, to get the prints for everybody, to,
So let's,
their application that I am, we've made that decision, so I would be curious, what is the,
so let's clarify that. If it were 30, he wouldn't have to come back in front of us. So proving that it fits in the 30 is not reasonable for us to ask him, but
my
If
thought
we
was
were
there'd be a path to show us something different, right?
yes, so I think what you also heard from us is that we may also consider something between 24 and 30 feet. So if you were to come back in and say, okay, I've done my layouts and 27 doesn't work, 28 doesn't work, 25 doesn't work, 24 really is the number that we need to stick to. I think showing that work would go a long way towards convincing some of the other members on this board.
so I mean.
So I'm not asking
the
for
layouts are easy,
surveys.
but,
I'm not asking for surveys to be redone. All we're asking for is if you took this survey and then said, okay, I still want my 20 by 18 shed. Here is an alternate layout like we talked about, and here's why it doesn't work for me.
I'm still not fully clear on that, because we're talking about a 6 foot that I could give you an explanation for every foot of increment there, but really it's just my opinion of where we're losing yard, right? I mean,
But that is.
I'm not sure where, where I'm gonna be able to give any more justification to the board here that, I can certainly,
Right.
I could come back to say 25 because I feel, it's to your point, it could be put in at the appropriate 30-foot offset. We were trying to get the ideal layout. We thought trying to submit this appeal would get it into the best layout that we thought would still create a safe working space, but also create the area that would create the best functionality as well as visual impacts to the neighbors that I respect the board and those concerns and trying to stick to, but I guess I'm a little bit unclear to follow up to say,
So
okay,
is
with the reasons why.
what we're
more in the-
thinking is if he can come back with logistical, so like actual physical reasons why beyond just I'd like to have X amount of yard. That's what he would need to show.
Yes.
Do you have an example of something like that?
This is just a quick interject. What if you went down to 12 feet on a width, you'd get that extra foot and just made the shed longer.
Sorry, say,
You're 20 by 18. If you went down to a 12-foot width and then made the shed longer, a little further into your brickwork there.
Yeah,
then you could generate roughly the same square footage and not require a variance.
this was our ideal layout, working with our designer to get it where we kind of maximize the space, both inside the shed for a lot of storage for the family and stuff like that, as well as still trying to optimize, you know, the layout of the yard. We were unfortunately only aware of that 10-foot offset
Right,
requirement
right.
that, you know, we got to the point of submitting the applications after the drawings were created that, you know, we're here today. So there's certainly a number of designs that we could do that. I don't think will get us that same square footage or quite tucked away. I mean, honestly, if we don't get our approval, we'll probably have to cut down to something half the size and, you know, we'll still live our lives just fine and move on. But, you know, this was our attempt to get what we ideally would make a great place that, again, we're residents for 37 years. This is our home that you see what we've invested here. We would like to live here for our sustainable lives, you know? So this was something that rather than just saying, you know, I spoke with Brian from the office and we talked through that, you know, I could have avoided and saved some money out of pocket of coming here tonight by just going and submitting that design change and putting in for a new shed that, again, I looked at some of these alternative layouts as I do really appreciate the board's recommendations here, but to keep the size that we wanted, this was kind of where we said, okay, we'll come to the board tonight. But if because of our, you know, you doing your duty there, you know, we're unable to get that application approved, then I do think it would require us to go back and have a new design of a shed and, you know, see where that
So I-
lands as far as our offsets, but
I think,
require another.
I think to make this real simple and stop me if I'm not making sense on this. You're saying that you did do some preliminary layouts of this to see what kind of options could work. I think that if we were to defer this till next month and you were to come back in and show that to us and those preliminary layouts that you did showed us that this position is the best and only position that you have, I would be very much in support of granting this variance. Did that make sense?
I don't think that would change anything for me because it's still it's a subjective reason in terms of
Okay.
they've already built some things, they're trying to fit within this footprint that they were envisioning. Nothing's going to change that. So it's not like, well, if we did this, well, then there's a tree right there and we can't or something. So it wouldn't change anything for me.
I guess if the issue is the yard and he's trying to maximize his free yard space, nothing that we're suggesting is going to address that, right? Because everything we're talking about
That's
is,
fair.
with the exception of Rob's
Mhm.
comment about making it narrower, is about the only thing that's gonna address that.
Okay. Well, let me open the public hearing. Everybody, there's nobody in attendance, so we'll make it through that pretty quick. And then we'll, if somebody wants to review the 5 factors and make a motion, we can do that. All right. So go ahead.
If we make a motion and deny it, does he know he's at 30?
Right.
If we say no,
Or a application that is different than what we see here tonight. 24-foot 1 inch, 24-foot 2 inches.
You
Well,
should,
my perception is that if we deny it, then he's going to modify the plan and he doesn't believe he will need to come before us for that reason because it'll have to be smaller. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
so you don't want to come back to
Yeah.
us and say, okay, I'll go with 26, or
I'm not,
you don't want to.
I would love, I'll come back. If you guys tell me 26, I would, if I know the number, I can tell you if I would love to know the number versus I'm not sure what other explanations I can provide other than the smallest number is the best number from my view, you know, so the justification, it was where I was struggling for Mr. I totally respect and understand. I just don't know if there's other justification I can give there.
If you're looking for square footage, narrower and longer to meet the setback would be the easiest solution.
But then I would but my setback, I'm already at the 10 foot on the neighboring property.
You'd have to
line.
come into the brickwork to make it longer.
Yeah.
I don't, is that brickwork,
It's-
does that exist already?
Oh, yeah, that was
Yes.
put in
Okay.
2021,
Okay,
so
that's what I was,
it-
okay.
it'd be a big, that would be a big impact too.
What if you did an 18 by 18 foot shed?
I wasn't sure.
Sorry.
18 by 18 foot, do they come in that measurement?
Oh, they're stick.
No, this is something
This
I
is
had
stick
designed where, I have, Amish Structures is the
Okay.
company that I've hired for the build there that.
Mhm. I mean, suppose you said, okay, I'll build the shed that's 18 by 18. I'm just trying to throw something out there so he doesn't
Well,
just get a
still-
no.
Still the width. It's a problem.
No, that would be
Would get a
okay.
little more room from the rear property line by shortening it 2 feet,
Yeah, I see what you're saying,
Whether or
coming
not-
forward
whether
a
or
couple
not
of
they
feet.
have a building
At this
that
point, would be
design.
a little.
And I guess that's where I would be curious, what is the number? Because if you told me 25 feet is acceptable, then maybe it's, looking to adjust the size of the shed to, as you're
Mhm.
proposing right now, that.
I mean, I think it's something, I think it's a willing to compromise that we're
So-
looking for.
It's a compromise as opposed to a all or nothing situation.
Just,
I mean, I guess we could vote, he could get an answer, right? And then have to do it all again, right? With a different design or just meet all the bulk regulations. Or we can have an in-depth discussion over all the layouts that he's done as to, you know, maybe it doesn't change anybody's opinion, but I mean, you want a fairly sizable structure in your backyard. I get it, right? I mean, but the impact is gonna be some of your yard. you
yeah,
know.
I mean, just to Mr. Bick's comment that he made and last plea there of, if I came with the submittal at 20 feet, if I had came in with the design at 20 feet, would we have been talking, is 5 foot, an acceptable range, between the 20 and 30 that I happen to have it at 24 feet. So now we're talking 24 to 30, what's the acceptable number there that?
Yeah.
To Mr. Bick's point, what is the, I was really trying to look at, both the physical and the visual impacts that, where it sits today, could have a future negative impact and we're really struggling. And again, you mentioned 27 feet, how does that change, both the physical or the visual piece, from that perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it simply minimizes the variance request, right? Or something less than, it's something less than 6 feet, right? So that's what we're trying to get to, right? Is try to get closer to 30. That's our job, right? Our job is to approve the minimum required.
And I do understand, being an engineer myself, the need for a finite number to work towards. But this, again, is more of a compromise than a all or nothing situation here. It'd be really unfortunate if this was voted on and it went down and then all of a sudden you're stuck with having to redo an entire proposal here. So I'm wondering what's the reticence behind sharing some of the work that you did with us for the siting, because again, and this is just my opinion, if you showed a couple layouts that you came up with to get to this 24 feet and said, here's what it is, I can't do more than 24 feet. I would be a lot more willing to sympathize with you as opposed to just, okay, I need 24 feet all or nothing. And I looked at it, and please just take my word for it that
And I-
nothing else works.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. Now, are we talking about the physical location of it or the actual design of?
I'm
the
talking about the
structure?
physical location. I don't want to alter design or I don't think
Well,
that
that's why
that's
I did want
necessary.
clarification, because when we went into the application, we did assume the design, was fit. So when we heard from Brian from the office, that's when we did go out and physically stake out, the different layouts and measured it off of, 10 feet off of here, and those. So I don't have a survey drawing because Heidi will, Ms. Malone will attest that, we had to get an updated survey and and have, you know, the survey placed on there to get the view that you guys are looking at today, but we went out and laid out, so I'd be happy to go back and show you what it looks like from a visual view, you know, to show you that corner rotated 30 feet.
So yes, that's really what I'm asking. And and it can be as simple as taking your scale and
Yeah.
drawing a
Yeah, I
box
can
on
give you an
paper.
update. I mean, I'll contact my survey company. I'll
Oh,
pay
no,
for
no,
it.
no, no,
No,
no,
no,
no, we're not,
You
survey.
guys have official, this is,
No.
I've
You
already
don't
made the
do that.
investment to be here and I
That's-
don't think things are favorable looking right now.
The
so
amount of,
I am happy to make that investment.
I think the amount of cost that you would put into doing that would be, I guess I wouldn't recommend, I would go with what we're asking, which is a bare minimum
Yeah.
of effort on your part,
I-
which is to just sketch a couple boxes out.
Make
with
4
the
copies
scale.
of this and just put boxes in different spots and let's talk through each of the options, right? Why this one? Why not that one? You know, what can be done on each one, right?
Yes,
Don't go resurvey.
Don't-
We-
don't
we-
go.
And I can give as many, I'll give it for a 1 foot offset increment to
Great.
those, but the Y parts is where I'm struggling a little bit.
my,
Yeah, the
my
lot- the
suggestion
line-
would be to lay out, to also say what this does to my yard, my interior yard. Because that's one of your key factors right here, right, is the interior space for your family. So let's
I
get
mean, I
that
have
on
it.
there too.
If you were to get 3D visuals, would that help to show from a 3D visual perspective? I mean, I'm willing to make the investment here to help, but
I-
it seems like it's
No,
Again,
giving
you
a better.
don't,
No, I wouldn't.
sense of
Yeah.
Visually how it's going.
you don't have
look.
to invest more money. What they're looking for is to find a reasonable compromise to this process. Our job is to limit the variances that we grant. And so all they're saying is, you can do this, one of your kids could probably do this, do 3 different boxes, give a
Absolutely.
dimension. If you can, scale off the distance between the house side of your shed and the house, so we know how much lawn space is actually there. Just from the scale that I'm looking at, it looks like it's probably over 30 feet. That may or may not be accurate.
Yeah,
So that's something else we would need to see, because part of your argument is that you'll be losing too much lawn space by shifting that shed. So it would be helpful for us to have that dimension as well.
Because all we have to go on right now is our very crude sketches on this, and I would not want to make a decision on.
Yeah, it's about compromise. It's not you and it's not your shed. This is what we're required to do.
Yep, no,
And
yeah,
we
I
do
just-
this-
I'm
we
worried
do
maybe
this-
Sketching isn't
yeah,
gonna get
we do
you,
this
to your
all the-
point,
Perfect.
The visual that you're
That's
looking
fine.
for though.
Yeah, we do this we have to do this all the time. So don't feel like you're being singled out
No,
in this
no, no.
scenario. Okay.
And I'll tell you that at the end of the day, based on what you provide me, if it's compelling enough, I can be convinced to vote to grant the variance as presented. I'm just asking you to do that little bit of extra effort to help me get there. And I think that's what the other board members are asking too.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
To be clear, that's not what I'm asking. So
Thank
I,
you. Understood. I'm not cutting you off. You can
Yeah,
continue
no, I
your
just-
statement.
happy to review things, but unless what you shows a reason you cannot, not just prefer not, it wouldn't sway my vote in that regard, but certainly if something comes back where there is a cannot scenario, then I would consider that.
And while you're getting a read of the board right now, and while individual, and this is not minimizing anybody's opinion on this, but obviously it's a majority vote. So the idea here is it'd be great to convince all of us, but you really only have to convince,
Right.
half plus one to get it done. So
Yeah.
again, not to
No,
minimize
absolutely.
anybody's opinion.
I just want to be on the record that not necessarily,
Thank you.
Respect that.
Terry, should I open the public hearing and leave it open, or should I, if we're gonna defer it, just leave it till next time? Okay. Adjourn or defer?
We advertised the public hearing for this evening,
Okay,
so you either have to, I think, learn from open and close it, or open it, leave it open and say you're gonna get carried on next.
Yeah, leave it open.
Okay.
Yeah, leave it open.
So at this point, I will open the public hearing. Would anyone speak for this? Would anyone speak against this? And we're going to leave the public hearing open until next time. And then still, am I deferring or adjourning? Because adjourning to me means we're done. Okay, thank you. Understood. I'll use your words then. So you're okay with coming back next month and showing, and if you want to provide that to us before, that even gets it to the point where we can just have. We can
Yeah, I was
open
gonna
right up
say,
a
I
discussion.
just get some clarification of, am I sending that via email or, how to handle?
Yeah, definitely send it right to Steve's office. and-
Submit it like you did these other documents to our office and we'll get it distributed whenever it's ready, well in advance of the meeting, if you'd like.
Okay,
Okay, and if there's any recommendation on the particular formats you're looking for, otherwise I'll get an idea of the sketches you're looking.
literally just make a couple sketches on copies of your survey and
Write ups
we'll
for
be good.
each one, right?
Yep.
So at this time, I'll make a motion to adjourn this case until our August 5th, 2024 meeting. Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay.
Yes, to the motion.
yes to the motion?
Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion?
Yes to the motion. So we're adjourned until next session. Thank you for your patience and understanding in this, and we will see you next month.
Appreciate the time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 5th, 2024. Does anyone else have any other business before the board? There being no other business, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So made?
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.